going on
We
there.
got one going right now.
Topic for today is proper tool for the job. We'll start by talking about some basic stuff, reels. When you're going to purchase reels, obviously price point is the number one thing, and that's just going to be to the individual guy. You've got items as inexpensive as Okuma Mag does, which are going to be in that $40 to $50 range, and you got stuff as pricey as $200 and some dollars with a Daiwa Saltiste or a Shimano Dakota. That's not really what I'm talking about. That's totally preference and what you want to spend on that product. What I'm talking about is the proper reel for the job. So I'm going to show you guys some Okuma cold waters. And here is a 303D. And this is a 30 size. This reel would be specific for fishing downriggers, fishing mono or braid or wire divers, or planer board reels like for brown trout fishing or steelhead fishing that are going to have either just flat mono line on them, flat braid, or 1, 2, 3 colors of lead core. In other words, this has the smallest capacity of their salmon size reels, or what I consider a salmon size reel. So you would want this reel for those jobs that I mentioned. You might say, well, why wouldn't you want a bigger reel for like a dip sea rod? Well, why put all that extra line on? Line is not cheap. Nothing's cheap nowadays, especially if you're getting into braid or wire. And if you got to put a bunch of backing on to fill the spool, don't get a bigger reel than you need. So the 303 or 30 size, which would be also equivalent to like a 600 Dakota, is what you would want for mono, braid, or wire dipsies, downriggers, or flatline boards, 1, 2, 3 colors of lead core, stuff like that. When you start to get into your bigger setups, like copper, for example, if you're going to fish 100 feet of copper through 250 feet of copper, we suggest the 45 size Okuma products or like the 700 size Dakotas. And what that's going to do is give you ample space for backing, the backing material that you need to put behind the copper setups, or the weighted steel for that matter. And it's going to give you ample space for that if you're going to use a 100 all the way through like a 250 foot setup. Okay? Once you get, in the north side of 250, so a 275, a 300, a 500, a 600, a 450, then you got to jump up to Okuma's 55 series, which is going to be like this model right here, to be able to get ample backing. Or a Dakota 800 is going to be your other option there. And this is really important because I see a lot of customers bring reels in the store that are like a 30 size, for example, and they'll say, can I get 200 copper on here? Well, the answer to that question is yes, we can get 200 copper on there, probably with less than 100 yards of backing, so less than 300 feet. If you get a big salmon on, big king salmon, even a nice lake trout or a rainbow, and it pulls out any line at all, you have the opportunity to possibly have the fish spool you and lose your entire setup. Obviously, it costs nowadays quite a bit of money to spool up reels, especially with the copper weighted steel and the backing on that stuff. So having it set up right the first time is critical. And that's why we have the pre-spooled reels on our website for guys that don't know which one they want, but also why we're doing this video is to show you guys kind of what you're looking for there. So that kind of lays out the different size reels and what we use those for. Another question that I get quite a bit is, what type of rod do I want? And everybody's pretty familiar with a standard trolling rod that you would use for downriggers, dipsies, maybe mono or braid planer boards. But the two key things is copper. When you're going to fish the copper or the weighted steel, this is pretty critical. You need a copper lead core rod, either an Okuma brand or a Shimano brand. We sell a couple different models at our store, but the key is you need this titanium guide. Okay, this metal guide. This is a titanium oxide guide, and you cannot use a standard guide if you want to keep your gear healthy with weighted steel or copper. Lead core, it's so-so. You can use lead core on regular guides. I recommend these guides. Lead core will in time beat up a regular rod and regular guides. And it's not like these are overly expensive. This model right here is an Okuma Classic Pro. We sell it on our website for $44.99. You can step up to a little higher end model in white diamond, I think, for like $79.99. So, it's not a huge price increase from a regular trolling rod. So, buy the best, or the correct item the first time. So make sure if you're going to run weighted steel or copper, and I suggest even lead core, get a rod with the titanium oxide guides right away. That way you know what you got. Also, side note, if you're going to run weighted steel, specifically buy an Okuma copper rod, either the Classic Pro or the white diamond, because the Shimano guides do not like the weighted steel. I don't know exactly why or what the what the makeup of that is, but for whatever reason the weighted steel will eat through the copper rods that Shimano Tellura has. So get a Okuma white diamond or Okuma Classic Pro if you're going to run the weighted steel. If you're running copper, then either one will work. As far as the other rod that we talk a lot about, that would be a wire diamond rod. And of course we grabbed literally the longest rod in the whole shop, so I'm going to have to bend this down here. There's two options when we talk wire diver rods. One is the standard roller rod that has rollers all the way up with a roller swivel tip at the end. This is the most important thing. Make sure you got a roller swivel tip at the end. And the reason you want a swivel tip is that way you know that the wire is coming out straight out of the rod no matter what angle the rod is at. So if you don't have a gimbal mount in your rod holder and your rod moves around in the waves, this swivel tip will rotate and keep the line coming straight out of the rod at all times. I prefer the open-eyed guides like Okuma puts on their rods. This is an Okuma Coldwater Pro. It's their highest end wire rod. It has ocean type guides, real high quality guides. Here again, this is a guide specifically made to be able to handle the wire line. We also sell the white diamond wire diver rods, and we have the Big Lake wire diver rods on our website. All of those are Okuma branded products and are designed specifically for wireline fishing, wireline diver fishing. We also sell the Shimano Telluras, and they make the full roller rods, which are a little bit more expensive. On that note though, if you are interested in wire diver rods and you are interested in the full roller rods, we have a special buy opportunity that we're going to be releasing on our website here in the next month probably or so as we're getting caught up. I have some Daiwa Heartlands and some Daiwa DXT rods that are discontinued now. They're beautiful rods. They retail for in the $200 and some range. We likely will be selling them for half price on our website. So keep that in mind. If you are looking for full roller rods and don't want to spend the big buck, we can help you out. So we've kind of covered the rods and reels. A real simple and easy item that a lot of customers miss regularly is the proper swivel. I'm going to show you two swivels. These are torpedo ball bearing swivels. It's what we sell in our store every day. We sell them in bulk. We got them off on our website as well. The one in my right hand, which would be on the left side of your screen, I'm moving up and down right now, is a 90-pound ball bearing swivel. We call that here in the store a flasher swivel. This is the swivel we use for flashers and dodgers every day. It's a little bit too big for spoons, so it's not what you would want to use for fishing spoons or crankbaits, but it is what you'd want to have for flashers and dodgers. And the reason being is you need the bigger swivel and the bigger ball bearing to be able to handle the line twists that flashers or dodgers are going to put on your rod. In my left hand is a ball bearing spoon swivel, we call it. This would be what you would want for spoons or crankbaits. I do recommend using a ball bearing swivel for spoons as they do spin, and if you use a non-ball bearing swivel, you will spin up your line and wreck your line. This is a prime example and a really important example of the proper tool for the job. And what I mean by that is it'll cost you about $5 to $10, somewhere in that range, depending on the size of reel and the type of mono you're going to put on your rod. Let's say you spool up a mono downrigger rod. You spool up your rod with mono on it for your downrigger, and you use a non-ball bearing swivel for fishing flashers or spoons. Probably if you fish every weekend, within a month, you will have wrecked an entire spool of mono by having to cut off line that's spun up from the spoon or the flasher and dodger rotating without a ball bearing swivel. So by saving what's 50 cents, because we sell our non-ball bearing swivels for 49 cents and our ball bearing swivels for 99 cents, by saving 50 cents, you've just cost yourself $5 to $10 in line. So that's where I'm saying it's really important to purchase the proper tool right away and be set up properly, and you'll be much happier. On top of the fact that that spun up line is weaker and you risk the opportunity of snapping off a fish of a lifetime. Another great example of the proper tool for the job is these custom painted Dreamweaver deeper divers. And the one in my right hand here is their 107 size. This pattern is one of our favorite patterns called the Super UV Frog. But the 107 size basically dives down to about 40 feet. You know, you can get more depth out of it than that, but realistically at a one setting, you know, with 100, 150 feet of line out, you're going to get, you know, 40 to 60 feet maximum out of this diver. So if you want to fish 100 foot down, can you get this diver to 100 foot? Yes. On a one setting out 280 foot, you're going to get down 100 foot. But out 280, you're going to risk tangles. So why would you use this diver when you could step up to the 124, also kind of known as a mag dipsy, and only put out about 180 feet of line to get down to 100 foot. So again, this is kind of a critical, important item to have both of these so you have the proper tool for what you're trying to do. Also, you'd say, well, why wouldn't I just buy the big ones then so I can get the depth? Well, when you're going to fish in shallow, maybe 40, 50, 60, 80 feet of water, and you want some stealth and you want to be able to get that diver away from the boat a little ways, but still keep it in the top 50 foot of the water column, the smaller diver is going to be your best option. Because if you put this diver out and you let it out a ways to get away from the boat, it's going to be in the bottom in no time. So having the two different size of divers, and more importantly the proper size of diver for the job, is key. So the Magnum Dipsy is what you're going to want if you're fishing about 60 foot or deeper. If you're going to target fish in the top 60 foot of the water column, your regular diver is your best option. Then kind of goes with the something we've talked about a bunch in our videos, which is the slide diver. I'm at a point now where the maximum lead behind a regular diver, like the TW deeper diver, that I'm going to put out is about 15 feet. At that point, if I feel like the conditions make it so that I need more than a 15-foot lead, I'm going to eliminate using those types of divers and go to a slide diver. Because if you're going past 15 feet, the trickiness of trying to land a fish with a 20, 25, 30-foot leader by hand over handing it and try and wrap that line around your hand and all the different things you might have to do to try to land a fish with that long of a lead out, you're going to be better off purchasing a slide diver that allows you to put whatever length of lead you want and just slide right down to the bait. So there's another example of just having the right tool will add a couple more fish to your boat. I know, guys, that this stuff is not rocket science and this isn't sexy, it isn't flashy type stuff. I got a fancy shirt on today, so I use the term sexy. It isn't flashy kind of stuff here. But believe it or not, this is the stuff that over the past 10 years I feel like has won me more tournaments than custom painted crankbaits or flashers, things like that. Those things are important too, but if you don't have these plain as day things set up properly, you don't even get to the point where the lure matters. Same series here, same scenario, is picking the proper planer board. I'll see guys trying to tow a 300-foot copper behind their offshore walleye board, their OR12, and they wonder why every time they get a bite on a diver or a downrigger, it automatically gets into their board. Well, it's because this board struggles to pull that much weight, and it sags straight behind the boat instead of pulling all the way out to the side like it should. So if you're going to pull anything more than about 7 colors of lead core, you need to jump up above the OR12 standard board and get up to the SST mag. So for 10 colors of lead, 8 colors of lead, 200, 300 coppers, 450 coppers, you want this SST mag board. That's what you want to use. But if you're going to tow lightweight, you want to be able to use this small board for brown trout fishing in the spring, steelhead fishing out deep, or anywhere where you're going to tow less than a 7-color lead core. This is going to be the board you're going to want. So making sure that you have 4 to 6 of these and 2 to 4 of these to get the right job done is what you want to do, instead of buying 8 or 10 of one size right off the bat. So having the right board, selecting the right one right away, and purchasing the right ones is what you're going to want to do to be able to save yourself some money and optimize your time on the water. Another quick thing I wanted to mention was line for backer. We talk about this a lot in the store. We use braid for backer 90% of the time. When we're backing copper or weighted steel rods, we use braid. If we're backing lead core setups, we're using braid. And some guys will say, well, why wouldn't you use mono? You know, mono is cheaper. Couple of reasons why we don't use mono for backer. Number one, it's thicker. So we can't get as much monofilament on as we can braid. And almost in all situations today, we're trying to jam as much backer on as possible, because on Lake Michigan right now, the fish are large. Larger than they've been in a long time, so they're running out a lot of line. And on Lake Ontario, they've had a healthy fishery for a while now, and the fish are very big there as well. So if you've got a 450 copper on, you're not going to get a ton of backer on to begin with. If you put mono on, you're really going to be limited on line. With the braid, the diameter is much thinner and you can get a lot more on. The other thing is strength. This braid is thinner than this mono. This is 25-pound test mono, 50-pound braid. So I just have a stronger backer here, and I have a better chance of keeping my gear and catching the fish than I do if I use the mono. Lastly, stretch. When a fish bites on a copper or lead core setup, you have tons of line out there to begin with. The last thing you want is a bunch of stretch. You want that hook set to get in there from you trolling and pulling the bait forward. So you really don't want the stretch that this backing offers. You want that whole setup to be pretty tight so that when that fish hits, he gets hooked. You have so much line out there already that if you had a bunch of mono out there, there'd be so much stretch, you'd lose a lot of fish because of how much stretch is involved in this setup. So that's just another side note. If you're rigging up your own reels and you're not having them rigged up at a store, and you weren't sure which one you want, you do want braid for backer on most of your setups. Just go over a couple quick more other things. As far as it goes for wire divers, we're rigging up all of our reels out of the store with either Torpedo brand or Blood Run brand 7-strand line. We do sell the Torpedo 19-strand, but our number one seller by far is the 7-strand. So if you're looking to get a wire Dipsy setup, that's what you're looking for, is 7-strand wire, either in the Blood Run or Torpedo brands. Those are the two most popular here in the store. As far as lead core goes, we have multiple brands of lead core in the store. We have Blood Run, we have Suffix, we might even have another brand. You want to use one of two styles, either the 27-pound lead core if you're going to use the regular old-fashioned lead core, which is the most popular for us, or the new micro lead, an 18-pound, has been gaining popularity. And if you're in a situation where you already have a bunch of reels that are maybe in this 30 size and you're trying to get on as much line as you can, the micro lead might be the best for you, that 18-pound micro lead, because you're going to be able to save some space on the spool by being able to use a smaller diameter lead core. So keep that in mind. But again, our number one seller in the store is the stock 27-pound lead core. That is by far our best seller. And then as far as weighted line goes, I mentioned earlier on the rods, the two most popular items we sell in the store is copper, which we got right here. Here's a spool of Blood Run. This is super copper. This is going to get you down deep into the water column. And then the other item that really sold well last year was Torpedo's weighted steel. We have that in the store as well. We have it in bulk spools. We can line you up with any amount you want. Or we have it in 200 and 300 foot spools if you want to get your own lined up. So if you're trying to get deep, I suggest not using lead core and using one of these two, as you're going to be able to keep the rods closer to the boat and not have as much line out. And a guy would maybe say, well, why wouldn't you want to have more line out? Well, the longer the lead you have, or the more amount of line you have out, the less percentage your chances to get the fish to the boat. I always said if it came down to tournament time and we needed one big one, I'd prefer to get him on a downrigger. And the reason is because he's going to start closest to the boat. So our opportunity to get that fish is the highest percentage of any rod, because he's going to start 50, 60, 80, 100 feet from the boat instead of 200, 300, 400 feet from the boat. A lot can happen in that time frame when that fish is that far out. So keeping the lines closest to the boat as possible is what you want to do as much as you can in a stealth situation. Meaning that if you would have to use 10 colors of lead core to get down 45 feet, but you could do that with 200 feet of copper, I would suggest the 200 feet of copper. Because this is only going to be 200 feet, 10 colors of lead core is going to be 300 feet. Why put that extra 100 feet of line out if you don't have to? One more time, I want to thank everybody for all the business. I hope you're enjoying the salmon schools. We're having a lot of fun with it, and we're working our tail off here to get orders out the door and get the salmon schools up for you guys to enjoy. Thank you very much. Make sure you stop on our website, www.anglersavenueproshop.com, or call and ask for Steve at 920-395-2406. Have a great day.